But the younger ones, are quite interesting because what they are doing is they're going on social media and reading all about red flags and green flags.
Absolutely.
So I am going, okay, if we're going to reduce a whole human being into red flag and green flag, we're going to be in trouble. We get so confused as to what is actually okay that we get addicted to the cycle of being very, very loved, like,
Yes.
and then very, very hurt by the same person because we have been through this cycle. It's so familiar to your body. Your nervous system is just oriented in that way. And that's why recovery from trauma is so key.
At some point of time in our relationship, there comes a point where we feel uncomfortable and confused about whether we should stay in the relationship or call it quits. Every couple does go through these rough patches, and while these ups and downs are normal, there could be few times that they could feel or they could drive themselves towards taking a decision to end their relationship. Hi, I'm Urvashi Bisht, head psychologist at Hey and a practicing psychotherapist with more than 5 years of experience. Today, we have Deepika Mulchandani, who will help us understand how and when it is easy or healthy to break up with our partners. Mrs. Deepika Mulchandani is a trauma informed sexual and relationship health therapist who is focused on supporting people from Asian and Eastern roots to recognize the impact of trauma in our lives, be it relation, physical, or sexual. So we can cover and rebuild a healthier and more loving relationship life and enjoy a healthier sexual life. She's the founder of the Open Connections and the Whole Woman Project, an experiential space for women to reclaim feeling safe and empowered as a sexual person through embodied belly dancing and a proud advisor for Hey as well. Welcome to the space, Deepika.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm very excited about the topic too.
All right. So maybe I'll start with the question, Deepika, with
Sure.
you're a relationship coach and expert in this area. I'm sure you are facing or seeing a lot of clients coming with, issue types regarding breakup and heartbreaks and relationship difficulties. So how do we
Yeah.
identify this is not the right relationship to be in? Are there any indications that
Mm.
we can pick up on?
Yeah. Yeah. I think if you allow me to just rephrase that, so then we can continue, is when
Absolutely.
we talk about, yeah, thanks. When we talk about relationship, I think it's useful to think about it in terms of us versus in terms of whether this person is right for me or whether this relationship is right for me. Because what actually makes a relationship is that you and I are in it together. So, like, let's say I'm thinking about you. If I say, okay, Urvashi, is she the right person? Or is a relationship with her right for me? What happens is I'm leaving myself out of the equation. It is as if I don't exist in that relationship. Whereas the question to ask is, can we get along? Can Urvashi and I get along? Can Deepika and Urvashi have a nice interpersonal relationship? So
Yeah.
when I am talking about relationship, I think it's really important to redefine, and I think I'm highlighting this, Urvashi, because I work with a lot of younger clients too. I work with those who are married, those who have a bit more complex issues. But the younger ones, are quite interesting because what they are doing is they're going on social media and reading all about red flags and green flags.
Absolutely.
So I am going, okay, if we're going to reduce a whole human being into red flag and green flag, we're going to be in trouble. We are not going to be able to learn the skills to navigate. That's first. Second is, I don't think we end up understanding ourselves very well as well because we just left ourselves out of it. If I'm saying, okay, this is a red flag,
Yeah.
question is, I like this person, for example. So I'm liking a red flag. What does that say about me? What does this all mean? I mean, there's no easy answers because we are so complex. And like I said, in your introduction of me, you said I do work with trauma. So we are influenced by our complex relationships. For some, it's trauma that's more intense. So all of this comes into play. And that's why when we talk about relationship, we can't simplify it to a point that we start to forget that we are also a part of it, that we are equally involved in it. So I think the way to discuss it would be that. And yeah, I'll pause in case you have follow-up questions. Otherwise, I can continue. Yeah.
No, so what I'm picking up from your response, Deepika, is
Yeah.
that humans are complex as a
Yeah.
relationship, right? So we can't
Yeah.
really categorize into black and white, and it's very common for us to read articles, blogs on, okay, I have identified the red flags. We can't
Yeah.
really categorize an individual in this category, is what you're saying. It's a lot more
No.
common. than that. To
Yeah.
go forward, I would want to know, are there any specific signs we should watch out for before breaking up? I think here we are categorizing about not just the red flags, because you've already highlighted that bit. What
Yeah.
beyond that we should, really
Yeah.
look out for before breaking up?
I love it. I love that question. See, that's the useful question, not right. It's a useful question because I mean, I invite you to think about it. We've all been in relationships, the romantic ones. When we enter it, it's because there's something that we like about the other person. So now the question is, what should keep us in that relationship? My view is that are the good things that you dreamed of when you started, are the good feelings and the good experiences and the happy things, the exciting things, do they still outweigh all the difficulties and the pain that you are experiencing? And the next question is, the pain and the difficulty, is it leading to some form of a growth? Sometimes let's say we have a challenge. The question is, okay, do I now know Urvashi better because of this challenge? And then now we are in a better place than we were before this. Or is the space of challenge and conflict so difficult that it leads to a breakdown of trust? It leads to a lot of disappointment, which then means that the pain becomes more than the pleasure. Right? So I'm separating it. So there are two ways to think about it. Is the pleasure still a lot? The dreams we started with, I'm recapping a little bit. Is the dreams we started with still more than the things that is uncomfortable, lack of compatibility? Maybe we don't both enjoy tennis, we both don't enjoy swimming. We can live with that. You swim, I do yoga, for example, no problem. Minor discomfort. The second question is, what about the differences? Honestly, the breaking point of relationship is usually when we don't get along. It's usually all the areas where we have a conflict, where we have differences, where we have families who think different things about each other, which adds to the conflict in our culture, both of us. Yeah. So, and then, okay, never mind that there is a conflict. The question is, does it lead to growth? Or does it just add on to the pile of pain and disappointment, one on top, one on top, one on top of the other? So that is a question I think everybody should be thinking through in a relationship. That's that. And the other part of it is, which I see a lot, is the question to ask is, do I still like myself in this relationship? Because let's face it, when we enter a job, a company, as long as we're mixing with new people, we are going to change. That's just how our brain works. Our neural pathway is just like that. I meet you, I learn new things from you. I say, well, I like what she said. I totally am going to take it. And it's not even so conscious the way I'm saying it now. Sometimes it's just immediately internalized. And then I remember, oh yeah, I learned this from Urvashi actually, because she said it like that. And that was so good. And it just resonated with me. And I may not be so conscious of it. So whichever relationship we entered, we are going to transform. We are going to change, especially if it's a long marriage. There's no way we are going to stay the same, right? Now, the question is, do I like who I am becoming? Is this my spouse, my girlfriend, partner? Are they adding things and helping me grow in a way that I like? That I actually feel, oh, I'm becoming a better person, even though it's tough, even though we fought, but okay, I've learned to be more calm, I'm more patient now, and in a good way, not in a way that allows abuse or things to continue, but in a way that, grows. So those, and the second thing is, do I still respect myself in this relationship? And can I still be who I am and chase my dreams? So 3 questions. Do I still like who I'm becoming? Can I respect myself? And can I still fulfill a lot of what is my desire? A lot of what my dream is in this relationship? I think in this era where we are living now, these 3 questions are relevant, especially for women who have never asked themselves these questions in the past because they were not allowed to. Men have their own issues too. I'm not saying they don't, but it's a different question. For women, the respect bit is really, really important. Can I still respect myself in this relationship? And can my dreams also be fulfilled? Yes.
Right. So not just like completely seeing yourself as a partner, but also as an individual in a relationship is very, very important. I think that's a component we cannot skip, even if we are in a relationship anybody. That relationship itself is important to hold on to. Right.
Exactly.
Okay, so sometimes we are also filled with regret post breaking up. How can we respond to such feelings? They get a sense of guilt when I'm in a long-term relationship. And now that I decided to break up, I'm constantly feeling, did I take a wrong step? It became like a habit for me. So how do we deal with such feelings, Deepika?
Yeah. Yeah, I think in a marriage, honestly, I actually am liking what's happening in Singapore now because they have changed the divorce law to be more amicable.
Yes.
So a lot of couples are seeking therapy before they make such a big decision, especially if it's a marriage. So I think that's really useful because then you start to get really clear about what you're doing, even though it may not completely eradicate all the feelings.
Yes.
But it's really useful that it's heading that direction because it really, when someone else facilitates conversation, it's just better. And I actually ask some of my clients to do this as a homework if they are presenting with what you said earlier.
Right.
Is write down all the reasons it didn't work or it just couldn't have worked. And some of the prompt I would ask is like what I said earlier, especially if it's a woman, then it's like, are you headed in the same direction? Do you share the same dreams? Are you going in the same place? Because if you're not, even though it was a decent relationship, like it's not so bad, it would have had its expiry date. So these kind of reflective processes and questions are so important. And of course, the other part, which is usually the more painful, is that this is where trauma comes into play. A lot of us are complex trauma survivors. Intensity and severity different. I would totally include myself in it too.
Yeah.
Is that we get so confused as to what is actually okay, that we get addicted to the cycle of being very, very loved, like,
Yes.
and then very, very hurt by the same person because we have been through this cycle. It's so familiar to your body. Your nervous system is just oriented in that way. And that's why recovery from trauma is so key. I do somatic work. So I work with the body. So your nervous system is aligned. Because for a lot of people, it's this tug of war almost. So it's not so simple for them, and when I hear the story as a therapist, I'm going, oh, wow, how are you in this kind of a painful dynamic and still surviving it?
Yes.
And whereas for me, who is, of course, as a therapist, my own commitment to my recovery is number one.
Yeah.
I do not compromise on that ever. So I'm sensitized to it, right? I'm like, wow, this is painful. But then you have to see the person in their context. And if anybody listening today identifies with this, it's painful, but then there's so many good things too. Then it's the question to ask ourselves, do I still respect myself in this relationship? And do I like who I'm becoming? And these are usually the questions that gets a lot of people thinking. And the last one is, how do I like how I'm being treated? Yeah. So a lot of women in the area of the sexual space have come forward in our culture, both, that says that I don't like how my body is being treated.
Right.
I don't like how I am being handled physically and objectified. And that's like a breaking point for me. So some of them actually wake up from that relationship through that means. For others, it's like, I don't recognize myself anymore. I don't even know who I'm becoming. And that means that, yes, we are transforming, but you've lost yourself somewhere along the way, that the mirror, you look in the mirror and you don't really know who you are. So there are those more challenging dynamics where the dreams and all usually don't even get discussed in those spaces. It's really just toggling between the couple trying to find their balance, which is very hard to come by.
A very wonderful, I think, note that I'm taking back and concluding the conversation on is that no matter in relationship or after breakup, a relationship with self is very important. The constant reflective work that you are doing. I think the more you are aware about your needs and the more you're connected to yourself, you can take a better decision for yourself. Apart from that, I think people are very complex. Relationships are as complex as humans. So it's very, very important, becomes significant to connect with ourselves, to understand our needs and meet the same with a partner or without a partner.
Absolutely. Yeah. I like that. Nice summary. Yeah.
All right, Deepika,
All
this is
right.
a great
Yeah.
conversation. Looking forward to have another very interesting conversation with you. Thank you
Sure.
so much for
Yeah.
taking the time for this.
Most welcome.